In this video, I'm going to tell you 3 disturbing travel stories out of Europe. From hidden dangers in the most serene landscapes to betrayals that leave you reeling, these stories will challenge everything you assume about the world's most sought-after destinations. You might think you're prepared for any emergency, but what happens when everything goes wrong? What if the people you trust the most turn out to be the most dangerous? Stick around, because by the end of these stories, you'll wonder how many of the world's most picture-perfect spots hide their own dark corners. Murder in the heart of Prague. The mysterious case of Emily Johnson. Emily Johnson was living the dream. At 28, the ambitious American from Boston had made a name for herself as a travel blogger. Her Instagram was filled with stunning shots of the places she visited, each post more breathtaking than the last. In 2018, Emily set off on a solo adventure across Europe. Prague, with its ancient architecture and romantic atmosphere, was her next stop. She rented a charming Airbnb in the heart of Prague's Old Town, a place she described as perfect for soaking in the city's beauty. Emily had planned to spend her days wandering the cobbled streets and capturing the essence of the city on her camera. Everything seemed perfect. But as it turned out, her ideal vacation would soon take a dark turn. It all started when Emily met a local man named Petr Novak. Petr was friendly, helpful, and offered to show her around the city. At first, Emily was hesitant, but Peter's charm quickly put her at ease. They spent a few days together, and Emily began to feel comfortable, as though she had found a friend in a foreign city. But what started as an innocent connection would turn into something much darker. One evening, Peter invited Emily out for drinks at a local pub. She agreed, not knowing that this would be the last time she would ever walk out of her apartment. Emily didn't return that night. Her phone went unanswered, and her friends back home began to worry. The next morning, Prague police discovered her body in the Vltava River. At first, the authorities weren't sure what had happened. The investigation was slow, with very little evidence to point to any specific suspect. As days passed, it became clear that Emily had been murdered. But who was responsible? Was it the charming local who had won her trust? The police quickly narrowed their suspicion to Peter, but without physical evidence, they couldn't make an arrest. What shocked everyone, however, was what was discovered next. Through her social media, investigators found that Emily had been targeted by someone who had been following her for months. Petr was not the only one involved in her life. His obsession with her grew more intense after every interaction, and Emily had unwittingly become a pawn in a twisted game. But the true identity of the man behind the scenes was even more chilling. Petr was just one player in a larger, organized scheme to prey on foreign tourists. Emily's death was a tragedy, but it also revealed a deeply rooted issue of exploitation that had been hidden in plain sight. The full scope of the operation would shock the world, and to this day, the question remains: how many more were there, and how many more will fall victim? David Hunt was no stranger to danger. A seasoned mountaineer from the UK, he had conquered some of the world's most treacherous peaks. His friends admired him, and the climbing community respected him for his dedication and skill. When David decided to scale the Mont Blanc Traverse in the summer of 2016, everyone expected it to be another impressive achievement in his career. But what happened on that climb would make it one of the most tragic and haunting stories in the world of extreme sports. David joined a group of climbers for this ambitious challenge. Mont Blanc, the highest peak in the French Alps, was known for its breathtaking views and unpredictable weather. The climb was a risky one, and despite his experience, David knew that even the smallest mistake could lead to disaster. Still, he was confident, maybe too confident. For days, everything went smoothly. The weather, although cold, was clear, and the team made their way up the mountain without significant issues. However, as they neared the summit, a violent storm rolled in unexpectedly. The group tried to push on, but the visibility plummeted, and the snow intensified, making the terrain more dangerous than ever. Separated from the group in the blizzard, David found himself alone and disoriented. In the chaos, David made the critical mistake of veering off course. He slipped, falling into a massive crevasse, his screams muffled by the howling wind. The fall left him injured, but alive. Desperate, he managed to pull himself from the crevasse, but his phone had no signal. He stumbled for hours, only to be met with a terrifying realization. He was completely lost. The rest of the group, unable to locate him due to the worsening conditions, assumed the worst. They gave up searching and abandoned the mission. thinking David had perished. But David wasn't done yet. What followed was an unbelievable act of survival. Climbing back out of the crevasse, he tried to navigate the harsh mountain terrain alone. He trekked for 2 days, slowly but surely, fighting the storm and his injuries until his GPS showed a faint signal. But instead of leading him to safety, the device took him farther into the mountains. At that point, David could only keep going, hoping that somehow he would find a way out. David's story didn't end there. He managed to find shelter in an old hut, where he was finally rescued days later. But his return was bittersweet. The mountain he had once conquered with pride had revealed a dark truth. It was hiding dangers that even the most experienced climbers couldn't foresee. And, to this day, there are still questions about whether the risks of such climbs are worth it. The Great Spanish Scam, the case of John Pemberton. John Pemberton had always been a man of ambition. A successful businessman from London, John spent most of his life working hard to build his career. After years of non-stop work, he decided to take a break and enjoy some downtime in Spain. In 2019, he booked a trip to Barcelona, planning to relax, unwind, and experience the rich culture of the Spanish coast. While enjoying the beautiful city, John stumbled upon an offer that seemed too good to be true. A real estate deal caught his attention. A luxury beachfront property for sale at an unbelievably low price. The agent, Javier Ortega, was smooth and convincing. He promised John that this would be a lucrative investment, one that would yield incredible returns. With the allure of easy money and the seductive idea of owning a piece of paradise, John signed the contract and handed over a substantial deposit. What followed was a roller coaster of events that would leave John shattered. Over the next few weeks, John began the process of buying the property, but things started to seem strange. The paperwork was delayed, the process was slower than expected, and the communications from Javier began to feel increasingly evasive. But the deal had been signed, and the money was transferred. A few months later, John received a shocking letter from the Spanish government. The property he had bought had been seized due to zoning violations, making it illegal for anyone to own it. John was devastated. His dream investment had turned into a nightmare, and he was left with nothing. Determined to recover his money, John sought legal action, only to discover that the man who had sold him the property was part of a massive scam. Javier was running a network of fake real estate deals, preying on unsuspecting foreign investors like John. But the scam didn't end there. As John dug deeper, he uncovered a complex web of deceit that stretched far beyond his initial dealings with Javier. In the end, John realized that the property he had bought was never really for sale at all. It was a facade, part of a larger plot designed to siphon off large amounts of money from tourists and investors. But the real kicker came when John received an anonymous email pointing to someone much higher up in the scam, a government official with ties to Javier. Could John ever expose the person behind it all, or was this just another chapter in his misfortune?